For years, we've been lied about what's healthy and what's not. They told us cholesterol is bad, so we started eating plant-based meat, seed oils, and thought that eggs were bad for us. They firstly took away natural sugars, then give us refined ones, only to tell that they were also bad. So they started giving a high fructose corn syrup and all of that bullshit chemical stuff. And in a world where everyone has their own belief on what's healthy and what not, what should we eat? For me, the easiest answer to the question is look what they were eating hundreds of years ago. The normal food, like the food that if you would eat it, you wouldn't be considered on a diet. Okay, so let's start to think about some of stuff that hundreds of years ago would have eaten. They would have eaten meat that came from both cows, sheep, all the stuff, chickens, and also wild meat like boar, deers, all that stuff. Okay, then they would have eaten milk, raw milk, and cheese, all that stuff. Okay, and the problem with raw milk is not that raw milk is bad, because raw milk has been always drunk. The problem is that it started to become a problem when the hygiene and the physical condition of the cows are bad. Because raw milk that come from cows that live free in the fields, in clean environments, is not dangerous for us. Okay, it's dangerous when milk is taken from cows that live in their shit, in their pee, and where their physical and hygiene condition are bad. So let's start to talk about what we need to focus on. Okay, what we want to focus on is high micronutrients. Okay, we don't want to focus on macronutrients, carb, protein, fats. Yeah, we want to focus also on that, but we need also to focus on high micronutrients. Okay, because you can have the perfect ratio between fats, carbs, and protein, but if you don't have micronutrients, you're going to lose testosterone, health, and everything else. So what are the most high micronutrients food? Okay, for example, on meat, if we had to choose between beef and chicken, I would choose always beef because it's higher in cholesterol, that is good for our testosterone, and micronutrients. But chicken isn't bad. Okay, I would also eat it, but I would focus myself on beef. So we need to eat stuff like beef, eggs, and prioritize high micronutrient thing, as I said before. Then we need to talk about carbs. Okay, carbs, are carbs okay? Yeah, absolutely. When you don't have carbs, you're going to be in a ketogenic state where gluconeogenesis happens. Gluconeogenesis is when your body takes amino acids in your liver and converts them into glucose. And it's a very stressful thing to do to our brain. And in my last video, on I talked about cortisol and the problems. Go watch that because I talked also about gluconeogenesis and how that it's bad for us. So carbs, we want to eat fruits, honey, maple syrup, potatoes, and rice. Sometimes we can also have some pasta, some high quality pasta, of course, high quality sourdough bread, but a lot of people aren't really able to eat that. Like they can eat it, they don't die if they eat it, but we can see that they aren't. It isn't optimal for them to eat it. Okay, and so we talked about that. For right now, the diet we consider a lot of red meat, eggs, raw milk, raw cheese, all the stuff. Then we can have also white meat like chicken of high quality source. Fruits, honey, maple syrup, potatoes, rice. We have a lot of stuff to eat, right? And now we're going to talk about what a full day of eating could look like. Okay, so let's imagine that we also want to work out in the in the afternoon. For breakfast, I would recommend having eggs. Okay, depends a lot on how big you are, how tall, how large, but 4 eggs and some fruits. Okay, fruits I would recommend local fruits, and when it's possible to have local oranges, it's going to be perfect because and in eggs we have a lot of micronutrients, also every micronutrient possible, but we lack vitamin C. Okay, so having fruit with vitamin C is better. And lunch I would eat some beef and potatoes. Why I say potatoes and not rice? Because potatoes is are higher in glucose. Okay, rice is high in fructose and glucose, while potatoes are higher in glucose. And glucose is better than fructose because it can be used by your whole body, from your brain, your muscles, your organs, and your liver. While fructose only by your liver. As a pre-workout, I would eat some raw honey. Okay, and for post-workout or dinner, I would have beef, rice, eggs, and cantaloupe. Okay, if we want to talk about macronutrients, we need to focus not only on proteins. We need to focus a lot on carbs, especially if we work out. Carbs, I would consider a good range of carbs between 100 and 200 grams of carbs for a normal person, and more carbs for very active persons. Protein, we need to have protein, but if we eat a lot of animal food, you're going to have them without worrying about them. And we want to have also high fat, high cholesterol, because cholesterol is the building block of testosterone. When we increase our cholesterol, we are going to also increase our testosterone, because testosterone is produced from cholesterol. So that's all for today. It was a very fast video, but I hope you understood what are my views on food. If you have any question, please write them in the comments or go on my Instagram and write to me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. So please subscribe, press like button, and I'll see you in the next one.